All right, you guys, we're on the last two chapters of the book. This has been a long journey. All right, and the eighth chapter is called Reunion, and we'll begin. Standing in a pool of blood, surrounded by the corpses of the suitors, Odysseus called for the maidservant Euryclea. When the old woman saw the carnage, she shrieked with joy and relief, for she knew the palace was finally free of the villains who had tormented Odysseus' family for so many years. "Be silent," Odysseus commanded her. "It is wrong to exult over the dead." "Let me at least go and tell Penelope," said the maid. "She has slept through the whole battle." "No, do not wake her yet," said Odysseus. "Gather all the maids who once danced with the suitors. Order them to carry away the dead and wash the blood from the walls and the floors." Euryclea did as Odysseus commanded her. When the palace was scrubbed clean, Odysseus told her to make a fire to purify the house. Finally, as the fire sent its smoke through the halls and courtyard, Euryclea hurried upstairs to Penelope. "Wake up," she cried, shaking the sleeping queen. "Your beloved husband has returned. He waits for you now. Wake up." When Penelope opened her eyes, the old woman told her the story of the great battle and how she had found Odysseus and Telemachus standing over the corpses of the suitors. "Do not raise my hopes that it is truly Odysseus," said Penelope. "Surely it is one of the immortal gods in disguise. My beloved husband is either far away on a distant island or he is dead." "Go and see for yourself," urged Euryclea. "I saw the scar on his leg from the tusk of the boar. Come with me now. He waits for you by his own fireside." "Old woman, you do not know the minds of the gods, or how they can trick us," said Penelope. "But I will go and see my son." Penelope went downstairs. She found Odysseus sitting by the fire. His rags were covered with blood. Sweat and blood covered his dirty face and hair. Stunned by Odysseus' savage appearance, Penelope turned away. Telemachus rebuked her. "Mother, can you not even look at him? Is your heart so hard?" But Odysseus was patient. He smiled and turned to Telemachus. "Let us wash ourselves and dress in fancy tunics," he said. Now, I would have thought he would have done that while they were cleaning up. "Then tell the minstrel to play a cheerful dance tune as if he were playing a wedding song. We must fool the neighbors and delay the news of the slaughter from reaching the relatives of the slain. When they hear about it, they will surely want to seek revenge." Odysseus left the hall, and the servants bathed him and rubbed him with oil and dressed him in a clean tunic. Then the goddess Athena magically took away his beggar's disguise and made him look younger and taller. As handsome as a god, Odysseus returned to the hearth side. He sat opposite Penelope, but still she was silent. Odysseus' transformation had made her even more distrustful. Was this man truly a man, or was he a god trying to deceive her? "What a strange woman you are," said Odysseus. "After 20 years, you will not let your husband take you in his arms." When Penelope did not speak, Odysseus went on. "Well then, I suppose I must sleep alone." "What a strange man you are," said Penelope, "if indeed you are a man and not a god playing a trick on me." Then Penelope thought of a trick of her own. Long ago, Odysseus had built their marriage bed from an olive tree that grew through the floor of their bedchamber. Only she and Odysseus himself knew the secret of its construction. "I know not who you truly are," Penelope said, "but I will tell my maid to prepare my own bed for you. Euryclea," she called, "have the servants place my bed outside my chamber and pile it with fleeces and sheets of linen." Odysseus' eyes flashed with anger. "What happened to the bed I made for us long ago?" he said. "That bed could never be moved. One of its posts is the trunk of an olive tree still rooted in the ground. Has a thief cut that post and stolen our bed?" Penelope gave a shout of joy and rushed into Odysseus' arms. Only you would know the secret of our marriage bed, she exclaimed tearfully. Forgive me for doubting you. As his wife's arms closed tenderly about him, a deep ache arose in Odysseus' breast, the ache of a swimmer in a stormy sea who has long yearned for the sun-warmed earth. Holding Penelope in the flickering firelight of his own hearth, he wept with sweet grief. As his mother and father embraced, Telemachus hushed the dancers and the servants. The hall was darkened, and everyone went to bed. Odysseus and Penelope retired to their chamber and to the bed with the post made from the olive tree. There they spent many hours of the night telling each other stories of all that had happened during Odysseus' absence. And while they talked, the goddess Athena held back the horses of dawn, Firebright and Daybright, so the joyful couple could spend more time alone. Chapter 9, Peace. When dawn finally came, Odysseus told Penelope that he must go to the country and see his father, Laertes. Mad with grief, Laertes had mourned his lost son for 20 years. The old man refused even to live in the palace, preferring to sleep in rags in one of Odysseus' vineyards. While I am gone, lock yourselves and your maids in your rooms and speak to no one, Odysseus said to Penelope, for I must warn you. By the end of this day, word will have spread about the death of the suitors, and their kin will surely come seeking revenge. Odysseus then woke Telemachus and the swineherd and the cowherd, and asked them to go with him to see his father. Though it was a bright morning when they set out, Athena shrouded the 4 men in darkness until they came to Laertes' vineyard far from town. Go to the house and prepare a meal for us, Odysseus told the others. I will go into the fields and find my father. In one of the fields of the vineyard, Odysseus saw an old man hoeing the ground. Bent over his hoe, the man wore a filthy tunic and a tattered hat made of goatskin. It grieved Odysseus to see his father, Laertes, looking so weary and ragged. Forgive me for disturbing you, Odysseus called out. I am looking for a friend of mine. He once stopped at my island and stayed in our house. He said he was from Ithaca and that his father was Laertes. The old man lowered his head and wept. That must have been my son, my unfortunate son Odysseus, he said. He has long been dead. Far from home, he was eaten by the fish of the sea or perhaps by the wild beasts on land. Indeed, said Odysseus. It has only been a few years since I saw him. I gave him gifts and sent him on his way. I thought the omens for him were good. We had every hope of meeting again. Laertes nodded, and his eyes filled with tears. Then the burden of his grief became too much for him. Groaning with misery, he picked up a handful of dirt and poured it over his head. Odysseus could not bear to see his father suffer a moment longer. He rushed forward and threw his arms around the sad old man. Father, I am your son, he said. I have returned, and I have destroyed all who have tormented you and my wife and my son. Laertes stammered in disbelief. Can you give me proof that you are truly my son? He said. I can show you this hunting wound, said Odysseus, revealing the scar above his knee. And I can tell you about the trees in your orchards. When I was a boy, you gave me 13 pear trees and 10 apple trees and 40 fig trees. Hearing these words, Laertes collapsed to the ground in a faint. Odysseus held his father tightly to his chest until Laertes opened his eyes again. A smile of joy spread over the old man's face, but then a look of fear. I am afraid that soon the families of the slain suitors will come seeking revenge, said Laertes. Do not worry about them now, said Odysseus. Come, let us go to the farmhouse and have a meal together with your grandson, Telemachus. Odysseus helped his father to the house, where a great feast awaited them. There the old man bathed and dressed in a fine cloak. The goddess Athena gave the gave youthful energy to his frail limbs, and made him taller and stronger. Excuse me. In the midst of their celebration, an angry shout came from outside. Armed men had indeed come seeking revenge for the death of the suitors. Odysseus, his father, and his son quickly pulled on armor and went outside. Laertes hurled his spear through the air and killed one of the men. Odysseus and Telemachus held up their swords and prepared to meet their enemy. At that moment, Athena appeared. "Hold back," she cried. "Stop before another drop of blood is shed." Odysseus' foes turned pale at the sight of the great goddess. They dropped their weapons and fled in terror. Odysseus let out a savage battle cry. He swooped like an eagle after them. But mighty Zeus threw a thunderbolt to earth. Seeing this sign, Athena called Odysseus back. "Cease fighting, Odysseus, before you anger the gods," she cried. "All fighting must end. Let there be peace from now on." Odysseus was relieved to hear those words. He gladly gave up the pursuit of his enemies. He knew that with the blessings of the gods, all his battles were over. Battles against Trojan warriors, against monsters of the deep, against terrible storms, and against enemies at home. Odysseus had survived each and every one and was finally reunited with his beloved family. From that day on, and for many years to come, peace reigned on the island of Ithaca, and the gods looked favorably upon Odysseus, his wife, and his son. The end.